Lyn's granddaughter, and this is a piece that Lynn wrote a few years ago about when she visited France when she was only 10. In Normandy, 1949. France, La Belle France. These were the words I often heard used in my early childhood when I was living during the war with my grandmother. She had a lovely French accent which she had passed on to my mother. I felt too I was in line for this contagious gift. At the age of 10, I confidently told myself that I was really quite fluent in French, but this illusion was soon to be shattered. My mother had a school friend, Elle, who married a French count. I heard that Elle had to give her wedding ring to a German war effort, and had pictures in my mind of being forcibly drawn from her fourth finger by a uniformed Nazi. After the war, Elle would bring her oldest children to England. When it was suggested that I could go to France for the summer holiday in exchange, I was enthusiastic. I was just 10 years old. I'd never even slept away from my home in my own. There were no sleepovers in those days, well, certainly not in my little world. My first shock into reality was having my long red plaits cut off before my departure. I hated my short bold cut, and from that moment I began to have severe misgivings. The ferry was a long crossing and it was rough. I'd never been on a boat before and I began to howl, just sobbed all the way to Paris. We were headed for the country chateau in the deepest Normandy, with turrets, shutters and an elegant slate roof, by the side of the River Main. As we drove up the drive, I remember long trestle tables and children writing away studiously under the supervision of the holiday governess. And then Elle went back to Paris, on her own, then began a strange existence. It was as though I was deaf and couldn't understand what anyone was saying. I was mute. Meals were eaten at a long wooden kitchen table, French country food. I had only known wartime rationing, which was still going on at that time, and the rich butter and cream from the past years all around us really upset me. I simply hated the taste of this rich food, much of which I could just not eat. My bedroom was huge, spidery, with rattling shutters and no curtains. Owls and strange animal sounds came from outside. Going to the loo meant walking across the bare wooden floors to the door, yet another creak, and along a dark corridor that led to a little door onto the balcony that ran between the two turrets. I hated crossing along this parapet, and as I saw bats flying in the moonlight, I was terrified of bats. So I covered my hair with my hands and shivered my way along the parapet to the little lavatory that was perched above the river. You could see the water glistening in the moonlit river below. I held tightly onto the seat and prayed that I would not fall into the drop. On weekends, Elle and the Count would drive up. Things were different when he was in the chateau. We no longer ate in the kitchen, but at a huge long table, laid out with cut glass and shining silver. The Count would sit at the top of the table with a small cane by the side of his plate. This was used to reprimand any of the children who did not conform to good table manners. The river was our swimming pool, but I couldn't swim. The sea at Brighton was a no-go area all during the war. For some years afterwards, huge rolls of barbed wire prevented anyone even putting a toe into the water. I just enjoyed myself splashing around, keeping safely near the river bank. That was until a day a water rat swam out of its muddy home just near me. Panic, screams. I just hurled myself into the water and splashed my way over to a rat-free bank on the other side. Well, at least it freed me from having to have swimming lessons. Then came the day that my beloved mother appeared. Oh, what a wonderful, happy, delightful, calming sight. I would not let her out of my view. I can remember holding tightly to the wire fencing of the tennis courts, in spite of her cajoling me to go and play with the others. But I wasn't going to take the risk of being stranded again. Poor Ma. I think she began to realise how terrifying it must have been for a very gauche, timid 10-year-old. It must have been remembered that in those distant days it was quite normal for children to be separated from their parents and families from an early age. My brothers were sent away to boarding schools when they were 7, and at the convent where I was, there was a little group of children as young as 4 or 5 who were boarding there. Their parents were overseas, so so going just across the channel for a mere 6 weeks certainly did not seem in any way cruel.
Thank you.